Alright, so last time we talked about the exposure triangle. We got aperture, so it's f-stop, we got shutter speed, we also got ISO. But here comes the problem. So how to apply this? You know, you got a camera, right? You got this amazing camera, and we got all this manual mode, and you might just tend to want to try out, but in fact, you won't be able to just find this perfect spot, like perfect exposure in the middle, and the perfect exposure doesn't mean that the photo is perfect. Okay, just hear me out. First, you might say, hey, I will just get an aperture of, so for example, f8, something like that. So just something in the middle. And then I just to change my ISO to, say, it's 800. And then shutter speed to, I don't know, 500. 1 divided by 250. So 1, 250. And you might think, hey, I already got this like a center of a triangle. And it's a perfect photo. In fact, it is not, because there's no way for you to actually know which kind of aperture this photo should have, which kind of ISO this photo should have, or which shutter speed this photo should have. And the middle of the perfect exposure doesn't mean it's a perfect photo, because we can, artistically, or for example, you want to express something. Okay, so as I mentioned in my previous video, so for example, you want something like this. You don't want a perfect exposure. Okay, so if it's perfect exposure, this whole thing may just ruin it, because you want it to have a silhouette feeling. So what should we do? What kind of trick, what kind of order should we follow in order to get that perfect, at least the center of the exposure triangle? Really simple. This is my personal experience, because there's no way you should, like, just a rule of thumb to get the shutter speed or the ISO. So the one thing that you can make sure is the aperture, because aperture can, just remove all this jargon. Aperture can help you focus on the subject. Whether you want to focus the same me or the background, doesn't really matter. You can use, if there's touch screen, you can just on your phone or on your camera, you can just tap the thing and will automatically focus on the subject, and that will decide the aperture. Okay, once the aperture is decided, it's kind of like a focused. Okay, once it's focused, then you can decide ISO as well as shutter speed, because ISO and shutter speed can, do the same thing. Okay, it's not exactly the same, but just think about this. Photography as well as a digital art is all just about light. Everything we see is about the light. So ISO sensitivity, so for example, is pretty dark. Imagine pretty dark, so I have to get more sensitive in order to get more clearly. So I will turn up the ISO, more sensitive, so got brighter. But at the same time, you can also change the shutter speed. Okay, I just make a shutter open a little bit longer, so more light coming in. I'll still get the same effect. Not 100% same, but just bear with me. So how to decide which one should adjust first? Really simple. You use ISO, because think about this. The ISO, you don't want ISO to be too sensitive. Okay, because there's a disadvantage. If it's really sensitive, you got more noise. Okay, you want the photo to be, unless, by the way, unless you want, like, intentionally add more noise to your photo. But originally, I think I should have a more refined photo. The moment where you took it, and then you can edit it, always edit it in your computer, say Lightroom, something like that. So if you want a noise effect, you can add this noise filter, or you can add all sort of a thing we will talk about later. But right now, the rule of thumb is that ISO lower the better. So just decrease ISO and to the moment when you're comfortable with. Okay, so ISO fixed, aperture is fixed, then we are going to control the exposure by changing the time of the shutter. Okay, so for example, if ISO got really low, the photo may become really dark. You want to be brighter. There's only one thing that can change, that is shutter speed, just to make it long exposed. So shutter speed become brighter, so shutter speed become longer, so speed become lower, so the whole shutter time will become longer. But here's the catch: if you don't have, say, a tripod brought with you, you can't possibly handheld your camera and your camera or your phone, doesn't really matter, just some medium, some gadget that is used to take a photo. If you don't have a tripod, or you can't put your phone or put your camera on a, I don't know, some fences, wall, something like that, just to put somewhere. If you can't do that, if you handheld, the shutter speed, if you increase the shutter, decrease the speed, increase the shutter time, you'll get really blurry, because the hand is moving. Okay, even though you want to keep perfect still, you press the shutter, there is a movement in your hand. You might say, hey, I can hold perfect still. You can't, because your heart got a beat, and that kind of vibration will also make the camera shaky, and that will result in blurry image. And even though if you use to say the latest iPhone, they got like amazing anti just this, like, digital stabilizer, you can sort of treat this, because you can get wider image, and up and down they can calculate that, hey, you are shaking, so they can like digitally stabilize it. A lot of sports camera can do that. So for example, like a GoPro can also do that, because it's got like a really wide angle image, so it can crop, so it can focus on the subject. But that's for complete another video. But yeah, just to remember, even though you just got one thing to adjust, which will be the shutter speed, you still have to think about, well, can I keep this amount of time not moving at all? Okay, if I can't do that, if it's handheld, you have to go back to the ISO and increase the ISO, so you don't need a lot of time for this shutter to close and open. So shutter speed and ISO, you have to do that together. Okay, so but I prefer to decrease ISO to a decent low threshold, and then if I have a tripod, I can have increase the time the shutter shut and open. Okay, and if I don't have a tripod, I might need to just there's a rule of thumb, it's 1/6. Okay, anything the time the last 1/6, it kind of still. Okay, and if it's longer than that, you gotta get some movement, even though you're, say, shooting some perfect still image, still got some sort of a blurry effect because of the movement of your hand. Okay, that's so yeah, that's the order of how to get the, at least, the perfect exposure in the exposure triangle. But we will talk about more of how to intentionally, that is, more exposed or less exposed, just to add a kind of artistic flair to your image. Okay, and don't forget to give this video a thumb up and subscribe to my channel. Okay, thanks, bye.